Welcome to another Ion Stop breaking news video. Thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about the three different things. One, it's the tariffs imposed by the U.S. into Canada, Microsoft wanting to buy TikTok, and a little bit of the stock. Okay, so the Prime Minister of Canada, in response to the U.S. tariffs, announced Canada will impose countermeasures that include retaliation on tariffs, dollar for dollar, said Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Twitter, announcing, "We will defend our aluminum workers. We did in 2019 and we will do it again." On August 6, Donald Trump announced in Cleveland, Northern Ohio, that he had signed a proclamation that reimposes tariffs on Canadian aluminum. That's weird. What happened to the free trade agreement with Mexico and the US? We will have more information on that. Microsoft aspires to buy the entire global business of TikTok. The American tech giant explores the possibility Microsoft is looking for an agreement to buy all of TikTok global business, informs Financial Times by quoting five people closest to the conversation. American tech giant confirmed on Sunday that it is negotiating with ByteDance, the Chinese proprietary of TikTok services. So Microsoft wants to buy the services in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. A person close to ByteDance operations said that Microsoft wants to buy Microsoft may also be thinking of buying the entire global TikTok business because it's difficult separating administrative functions such as human resources and to ensure that users can continue to use the app if they travel to another region. President Donald Trump declared Monday that it would probably be easier to buy everything than to only buy 30%. "I warned that whoever buys TikTok will have to pay a substantial commission to the U.S. Treasury," said Mr. Donald Trump. And okay, so there are some issues on this purchase. Some people are calling it a multi-dimensional chess. So the problems are here. The number of stakeholders, including ByteDance governments and minority shareholders. Another challenge is not solved even with the conclusion of the whole business in a single agreement. The entanglement of TikTok technology. It's one of the big ones. Microsoft has discussed the need to add an agreement whereby it gives TikTok a year to separate from its Chinese metrics and address U.S. concerns about data security. However, two people consulted by the newspaper claimed that this deadline would be difficult to meet. One of the sources estimates that it would take about 5 and 8 or 2 8 years to separate the software. Meanwhile, a person closest to ByteDance assures that there has not been no discussion between the two parties around an agreement beyond the countries that Microsoft mentioned on Sunday. Okay, let's talk a bit about the stock exchange. What is the issue here? The stock exchange marks records when the economy collapses in the U.S. The current chaotic and contradictory U.S. outlook are eloquent contagions from the new disease, totaling almost 5 million. In early August, those killed by the health crisis reached 160,000 people. The GDP collapsed at an annualized 32.9 rate in the second quarter, the worst record since 1947, when the Commerce Department started to keep records. So that's a very long time. 19 what? 47. So the stock index of shares CNP 500 somehow increased 26.6% in the same quarter, completing a cycle of continuing monthly highs not seen since 1998. Hmm? Contradiction. How can it be explained? How, well, while the biggest economy in the world falls, there is a sharp rise in the stock. Significant. Of the significant most companies on the New York Stock Exchange. Okay, here comes the British magazine, The Economist, trying to give some answers, I guess. But first they say, they declare actually, a dangerous gap: the market versus the real economy. Details between February 19th and the 23rd of March, the index S&P 500 lost a third of its value, mhm, which is pause has soared, recovering almost all that lost. The news that the Federal Reserve of the U.S. Central Bank bought corporate bonds, helping large companies pay their commercial and banking debt, destined for more than $600 billion to save corporations and commercial banks. Versatile investors went from panic to optimism without losing the pace of confinement on the same day as the biggest crash of the US economy in decades. The New York Exchange reported Amazon extraordinary earnings of 5.2 billion for the second quarter of the year. Also reported the increase in Apple technology sales 11% in just 24 hours. Whoa, that's awesome. I believe it not. Company increased the company increased its capitalization value by $172 million. The rise of its shares. Wow. Their erratic health policy and without strict confinement, the U.S. economy collapses. Employment rises from 4% to 16%, the highest rate since administrations began in 1948. The price of the companies already placed above that of August last year. Huh. Wow. What is happening? Wall Street is getting further and further away from life in Main Street. The inconsistency of having more expensive auctions now than it was a year ago, mm, as the levels of the recession and loss of work increase. That imbalance is causing more political tensions. Democrats say it is the second time the Federal Reserve saves large investors, corporations, and banks. Remember 2008, 2009? Huge debacle fueled by the bursting of the real estate bubble of credit. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden, according to the latest polls, is 15 points ahead of the Republican President Donald Trump. Seeking re-election, the Federal Reserve acted as the fighter who immediately goes to put out the fire. Hmm? They didn't want to happen what happened in 2008, but obviously we, the citizens, get the same. We get to be second citizens. There was no hesitance in pulling all the monetary and financial tools to avoid an even bigger debacle. The first initiative was to lower the interest rate to almost zero level. According to the US Central Bank, it will be in force until 2020. Federal Chairman Jerome Powell injected a monetary stimulus to the economy of 2,300 billion. In that package, it included the purchase of TF auctions, the bond funds, actually 750 millions, treasury bailout, and the salvage of 600 million corporate debt with commercial banks, including commercial banks. For that task, the Federal Reserve contacted the powerful BlackRock. In my last video, I told you guys about this bank, so please watch it. You guys will know a little bit of it. Actually, this bank also led the debt negotiations with the Argentine government of Fernandez Alberto. They just settled. Argentina won't have to pay as much anymore, but they will still have to pay some money to the international monetary funds. When that same portfolio management company has corporate stocks and bonds, it constitutes an apparent conflict of interest that Donald Trump administration and the Federal Reserve, for some reason, did not consider before talking to them. So the previous Nobel Prize winner Paul Grantman says that all this indicates that the bonds act as a refuge because there is no other profitable alternative in this moment. So if you buy bonds, you get 0.6% compared to 30% back in 2018. If you want to protect those, if you want those bonds protected against future inflation, you can do it, but instead of 0.6, you will be getting 0.5. And not attractive at all. Grudman has the following reading to define the strategy of the financiers. The economy of the United States will remain stagnant for several years, and the Federal Reserve will maintain the policy of issuance and interest rates close to zero. Due to this gloomy economy outlook, Paul Grantman states that there is a feeling that the increases are steady precisely because the real economy is weak. Okay. He believes he believes that the first few weeks of March, the world teetered on a brink of financial crisis, like the one in 2008, that made investors flee from anything that presented the slightest hint of risk. But then came the Federal Reserve intervention with these rescue measures, which hastened investors to buy assets in unprecedented volume and variety. So they bought everything, all of it and everything, and as much as they could. And especially, and so with the bonds options displays, of course, and especially favoring companies that remain profitable despite the crisis. Despite this economy turmoil, that experts have already located more in depth than the Great Recession. So, you know, we are in the greatest recession, I guess we could say. So let me see here. Pretty much here to sum up, negative interest rates. It's a way out of the crisis and debt. The collapse of the GDP, coupled with the health crisis due to the lack of control in management of prevention measurements to contain the crisis, indicates that the economy is likely to recover slowly. The longer the pandemic lasts without a vaccine, the economy output will remain below pre-crisis levels, leaving permanent scars on many companies and workers. So this is going to affect a lot of people, a lot of companies, but the biggest companies are safe because the Federal Reserve. So I'm glad. I mean, not every country in the planet has done the same. Some of them took action before it could affect their economy to this level. But no matter where we live, we're gonna be affected. So let's keep calm and let's keep our heads on our shoulders and try to be there for our families and friends. Okay, thank you so much for listening, watching my video. I hope everyone is doing well. Please leave comments, uh, give a like or a dislike to my video, and I hope to to see you in my next video. Also, leave any suggestions. I'm open to any suggestions, any videos that you want to hear about. Please let me know. Well, my friends, thank you so much for being here, and have a great day.